Hey guys, it's Shara from Woodshop Diaries, and if you saw my last video, you know that I'm tearing out these cabinets in my current mudroom. The whole goal with redoing this space was to make things more simple because we really didn't need all of the storage space. So I already built this cabinet to replace those, but I also needed one more piece in this hallway, and that is a bench. So in this video, I'm going to share how I built a simple modern freestanding bench, plus the whole before and after of the mudroom. So if you're ready to see how it came together, both the bench and the mudroom, let's dive in and get building. This video was sponsored by Instant Hydration. I mentioned that this bench is going into my new mudroom with the coat cabinet that I shared in my last video. I built that cabinet using red oak, so I also built this bench with red oak so that it would match. I built pretty much all of this bench with 3/4 inch plywood because that's what I had available, but if you wanted to glue up solid wood panels, that would also work well here. First, I cut down my plywood into a seat top and 4 squares that I'll use to make the sides. I applied edge banding to all sides of the seat and to 2 opposite sides of the squares. Okay. So I have 4 pieces like this where the front and the back are edge banded. So these pieces are going to make like the legs of the bench. So I cut 2 of these pieces from one scrap sheet of plywood, and then I cut the other 2 pieces from a different sheet of plywood. And I kind of like the grain pattern a little bit better on 2 of the pieces than I do the other 2. So I'm going to label them and make sure that those are going to be facing the direction that I'm going to be seeing them most often in the mudroom. This is completely optional, but just kind of think through the way that you might want to look at the pieces. So I'm going to get them labeled, and then I'm going to do one more thing before I glue them up. So these 2 pieces are going to be the outside of the bench. I'm going to cut some shallow, like curved cuts to make it look like they're different pieces of wood. This is totally optional. I'm basing this off of a desk design that I had seen where they had done that on the sides. So that's the only reason I'm doing this, just a decorative detail. I cut 2 curves into the end pieces just to add some extra detail. Then I ripped some strips of plywood to glue between the squares. In hindsight, I do kind of wish that I had chose to use a solid 1x3 here instead of plywood, just because I think the grain pattern would have matched the edge banding a little better. I glued these pieces between 2 of my squares to make 2 hollow boxes. One will go on one side of the bench and one will go on the other. Another option, if you wanted, would be to cut these plywood pieces a little narrower and glue wider solid wood pieces onto the front and back. In my case, where this bench is going, the side will be much more visible than the front edge, so I just face my joints toward the front so they'll be less noticeable. Of course, if you wanted, you could bevel the corners, but the thought of gluing up bevels for this made me want to scream. As hot as it's been out here recently, it won't take long for this glue to dry, but while I wait, it's a great time to grab a quick drink. This summer has been exceptionally hot and dry, and I started getting frequent headaches because I wasn't drinking enough water. I decided to be more intentional about staying hydrated and did some research into electrolytes to see if they might help. I decided to try Instant Hydration electrolyte powder because it has 0 sugar and no sketchy ingredients like the sports drinks that I've tried in the past. They've got tons of flavors to choose from, but lately I've been reaching for raspberry. It's flavorful, but without being too sweet or too salty. So it's a nice way to recharge while I clean up the shop and wait for glue to dry. Instant Hydration electrolyte powders contain important minerals like potassium and magnesium, but particularly sodium, which helps keep your blood volume and energy levels steady, which is important to me because I donate blood pretty often. These minerals hydrate better than water alone and can help improve focus and energy to avoid those midday crashes. I've seen a noticeable difference in my energy levels since starting these, and no more dehydration headaches. If you need a hydration boost added to your daily routine, try Instant Hydration's auto ship option that allows you to order once but never run out. Use my code for an exclusive discount on your monthly auto ship. You can check out the link in the description below. Now that the bench ends are glued up, I just need to add the top.
So these are going to be like the legs of the bench, and I'm going to run 1x3 supports between them to help support the bench seat. But here's the thing. I really like to use solid 1x3s for this. I just think it would be a little bit sturdier, but I only have enough solid red oak 1x3 for one of the supports, and I need two, one for the front and one for the back. So ideally, both of these would be solid 1x3s, but since this is what I have, I'm going to use a solid 1x3 for the front, and then a 2.5 inch wide 3/4 inch plywood strip for the back support. I also think this color matches a little bit better to the edge banding. So anyway, I'm gonna put this solid piece toward the front.
I cut one solid 1x3 and one plywood 1x3 to use as my seat supports and installed these between the two ends with pocket holes and screws. Then I applied wood glue to the top of the bench and clamped the top onto it. If you were working with solid wood, figure 8 fasteners or Z-clips would work well here to attach the top instead.
It's just gonna have to lay there on its side for a while.
At that point, this bench is finished, and I stained and polyed it to match the coat cabinet. While that dried, I moved inside to start tearing out my mudroom cabinets so that I can move the new stuff in. I had some light wall patching and paint touch-up to do, which I didn't film because that's super boring, but after that was done, I was ready to bring everything inside. I positioned this coat cabinet where I wanted it to go. I just left a little room on the end, in the corner, for possibly adding some hooks for keys and accessories later. We'll see. Either way, I didn't want this cabinet pushed all the way to the corner, so I did leave some space. Then I secured the cabinet to the wall so it stays put. Before adding the bench, I needed to replace the baseboard, so I cut to fit and added 1x6 baseboard back to the wall. After filling the nail holes and caulking, all the not so fun stuff, I placed the bench next to the cabinet to finish this up. This hallway feels a lot less crowded and dark now. I think this freestanding bench is a really nice touch. It doesn't take up a lot of space, plus if I ever decide to move it or swap it out, it's not built in, so it's a quick fix. I knew it would be hard to get a good angle of this in the hallway, so I filmed some beauty shots of it in the shop before bringing it inside. That way, you can get the full effect. I know this wasn't anything fancy or elaborate, but I'm really happy with this switch up in my mudroom for something a bit simpler and smaller. I've got a few more projects on the list that I'm wanting to revisit and redo soon, so be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss them. In the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy building!